All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into a pretty radical vision for the future. And it all starts with this one big idea, that humanity's biggest problems, I'm talking everything from division to inequality, they all stem from a single fundamental mistake. And that is, we've just stopped moving.
You know, the entire vision we're talking about today, it's all built on this one simple but really profound principle. Life is movement. It's all about dynamism. And if you stand still, well, that's stagnation. So this philosophy argues that progress, it isn't just some goal we're trying to reach, it's actually our natural state. We are literally built to move forward.
Okay, but that brings up a huge question, right? If we're meant to be constantly moving forward, always advancing as a civilization, then why does it so often feel like we're just stuck? Like, what's really holding us back from reaching our true potential?
So according to this vision, it really boils down to three core problems. Three big roadblocks that are stopping us in our tracks. They are division, dogma, and disparity. These are the things that tear us apart, chain down our minds, and create these massive gaps in our society. Let's dig into that first one, division.
I mean, just think about it for a second. We see conflict pretty much everywhere we look, right? From our own communities all the way up to the global stage. So where does all this friction actually come from? And what's so powerful here is how this way of thinking frames the whole problem. It looks at things like nationalism or limited religious views, caste systems, racism, and it says, these aren't natural, not at all. They're actually artificial constructs. They're man-made barriers that are designed to make us forget a really fundamental truth about who we are.
And this quote right here, it just perfectly lays out the counter-argument. See, underneath all those artificial layers we just talked about, there's only one human society. It's a single, unified thing. So the really crucial point here is that all these divisions, they're ultimately illusions. And they're illusions that we've got to overcome.
All right, so if division is the first major obstacle, the second one is dogma. And listen, this isn't just about having strong beliefs. No, this is about ideas that are forced on us without any logic or reason. You know, ideas we're just told to accept, no questions asked. And what that does is it completely throttles our ability to think freely, and it keeps society locked in place.
And the philosophy's stance on this? Well, it couldn't be clearer. It becomes this powerful rallying cry. Dogma, no more. Dogma, no more. It's this call to action, a call to liberate the human mind from these unreasoned chains. It's basically a demand to question everything, to analyze, and to think for ourselves.
Okay, so that brings us to the third and final major problem, and that's disparity. We're talking about that massive, vast economic gap between extreme wealth and just crushing poverty. And in this view, this isn't some accident of history. No, it's presented as the direct result of some deeply, deeply flawed economic systems.
And this vision, it takes aim at both of the big economic systems we know. It looks at capitalism and calls it a system of merciless exploitation, one that just concentrates wealth and creates widespread suffering. But then, on the other hand, it sees communism as being totally rooted in a purely materialistic worldview, one that ignores our deeper psychic and spiritual needs. So in this view, both systems fail because they both push this crude desire for stuff, for acquisition over everything else.
So if we put all of that together, the diagnosis is pretty clear. Our big societal problems really boil down to three main things: a genuine shortage of the basic necessities of life, the hoarding of wealth by a very small number of people, and the mental stagnation that's caused by dogma, which stops us from even trying to solve the first two problems.
Okay, so we've laid out a pretty powerful diagnosis of what's holding humanity back. But what's the cure? This is where we shift gears, right? We're moving away from the problems and into the proposed solution, a philosophical vision that's really designed to heal these deep, deep societal illnesses. And that solution is called Neohumanism. What it does is it takes the old idea of humanism and just expands it radically. See, it's not just about love for other human beings. It's about taking that circle of love and affection and stretching it to include everything, every single plant, every animal, and yeah, even the inanimate things in our universe.
But why? Why do that?
Well, because the spiritual foundation of neo-humanism is this idea that the entire universe, with all its incredible diversity, is really just an expression of one single, unifying cosmic consciousness. This idea of total interconnectedness, that is the antidote to all those problems of division, dogma, and disparity we talked about.
But here's the thing. This isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. This vision actually comes with a detailed blueprint for how to build a new society. So let's take a look at how this philosophy gets translated from this big idea into a practical plan for progress.
The economic engine for this new society is something called PROUT, which stands for Progressive Utilization Theory. And the key word there is progressive, or maybe better yet, adaptive. See, unlike these fixed, rigid ideologies, PROUT is designed to be a flexible system. It's meant to evolve with the changing needs of people in different times and different places. And its goal is super simple. Use all of our resources to their absolute maximum potential, and then distribute them rationally so that everyone benefits.
So what does that actually look like in practice? Well, the economy is structured in 3 tiers. Up at the top, you've got your key industries. Think things like utilities, major infrastructure, and those are run by the government on a no-profit, no-loss basis. Simple. Then you have the biggest chunk of the economy, the real engine, and that's the cooperative sector. And finally, there's still room for small-scale private businesses. This whole structure is designed to perfectly balance our collective needs with individual initiative.
A huge focus is placed on agriculture. There's a proposed 2-part revolution. First, you take all those small, inefficient farms and you consolidate them into larger cooperatives. And second, you have all farmland managed cooperatively using modern scientific methods. The goal of all of this? To maximize production and solve that root problem of resource shortages for good.
But hang on, who leads this kind of massive, sweeping change? This vision introduces a pretty special kind of leader, called a Sadvipra. Now, don't think of them as politicians in the way we do now. Think of them more like spiritual revolutionaries, people who are deeply grounded in morality and totally dedicated to universal human welfare. Their job is basically to be society's conscience, to fight exploitation and to guide humanity forward.
So, we've really gone on a journey here, haven't we? All the way from the problems of a divided, stagnant world to a bold new vision of a unified, progressive future. So what's the final takeaway? What's the next step on this path of constant movement?
And really, we end right where we began. Life is movement, and movement means you're gonna have to overcome obstacles. This philosophy isn't promising some perfect utopia with no challenges, not at all. Instead, it completely reframes the idea of struggle as the very sign of life itself. Fighting against division, against dogma, against disparity, that's not some burden we have to bear. It's the very essence of what it means to be alive and to be moving forward.
And so that's the challenge this vision leaves us with. Humanity is always moving. That much is a given. The only real question left, the one we all have to answer for ourselves, is where should we step next? Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.